Okay.
Okay, quiet in the back, please.
Great. So, I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. I think John is saying that because he meant it. Talk a little bit too much. So, I'll try to keep it short. So, Guala. Guala stands for hands in one of our native languages in Honduras, which is called Lenca. And we started about 4 years ago, I think now, after a program I was involved here in the U.S. With the U.S. Embassy. So after that, after quite the training here in the U.S. on 3D printing, we decided to start this nonprofit with some other friends, just to be able to deliver prosthetics in Honduras. So it's been quite a journey from there. So I think don't go through the whole presentation, just make it short. I'd like to be able to say that Guala is really like a collection of a lot of time, effort, and patience that many other chapters from e-NABLE have put on us. So we are a huge blend of designs between the people from Paraguay, designs from Christian, designs that goes to the Olympic, to the Raptors, time that John has put on us, time that even Jen has put on us. Everyone has put a little bit of time, effort, and the best that they got on Guala. And we try to always portray that and be thankful for it and always share with other people as well. So our goals are, pretty aligned with what e-NABLE does. We want to fabricate and develop prosthetic devices, and we try to find the funds to be able to give them for free to people, right? We are right now trying to make it as sustainable as possible. I think that's one of the keywords that we are trying to explore and share here in this conference, sustainability. That's a big one right now for us too. We're trying to make a sustainable model that can help us to keep doing it for many more years, and to help do it for free for people. So there's some cool pictures. Some of our collaborators, which are called, has a name from that organization? Hands of Gratitude. That's one of our key partners. That's part of our team. We're really composed of people from all sorts of backgrounds, youngs all the way up to, you name it, ages. And we come from backgrounds ranging from education all the way to engineering, law, psychology, etc., etc. And the purpose of it is pretty much why we do it as well on e-NABLE, right? To keep our backgrounds not just focused in the technical stuff, but as well in humanities, as well in education, etc., etc. So that's a couple more pictures. Fabian, that's one of Kristen's design. Actually, that design was born last year, the first time I met Christian. I was like frustrated telling him, dude, I've been wanting to do this design for this kid for a while. And he was like, oh, take out your computer, we're gonna make it. And we did. After a month or so, I went back to Honduras, and we were able to give this first actual prosthetic for a kid, right? Because that's been one of our biggest concerns. We've been really careful when dealing with kids. Most of our first deliveries were just for grown-ups, because we were really careful to learn about all the experiences that the community has been having with kids, not just on the technical part, but also on the follow-up, also on the, I think, social and psychological aspects of developing this prosthetics. So it's still a learning process. We're still working with Fabian. You're going to see a couple more pictures of him in other slides. Yeah, as I was telling you, it's really a collection of experiences of all the community. Those are some of our other prosthetics for grown-ups. As you may see, that's the Guala design from Jack, other huge player in what we do. I was able to, when he just came out with that design, I think back 2 years ago, tell him, first of all, that's an amazing design, but also work with him on a couple of developments, like the early developments that he did for be able to grab backs, right, without having to keep this position, but rather just have it a type of lock mechanism that then you can fully relax and keep grabbing stuff. So that was one of the results. And just quoting Juan, which is the user of this prosthetic, he says that the biggest use that he gives his prosthetic is not grabbing a cup of water or playing or whatever. is just simply grabbing her daughter's hand. That's like the biggest thing for him. And he will be, that's the only reason he will be using it if he had a choice. That's Christian, another of our early users. His prosthetic is the early flexi hand that Christian was, flexi arm that Christian was mentioning. And he's an entrepreneur. So he has his own shop of shoe shop, right? And his prosthetic is really useful for him to be able to reaccommodate his shoes all around his shop. So, and also, that's a big one, to give high five to his friends all around his neighborhood. So
Christian lost his arms in a welding accident, and in fact, he has replaced the gauntlet with his own sheet metal version.
Right, to be able to, yeah. So he became the maker as well of his own prosthetic. That's Christian also. This is a cool one. This is a more recent one. That's Fabian again, with a second version of her design. This time he was trying the unlimited arm. And we made a couple mods to it, because interestingly enough, they both connected that they wanted to play the drums. So we ended up making an event for both of them, and they both received a customized prosthetic device, one of Hulk, one of the Minions. And they also get an assisted device for them to be able to grab the drumsticks and play the drums together. So by this, we also started creating the concept of the users having their own community, all right? So now these kids are connected, and more than the kids, their parents as well. We found that their stories were not that far apart. And for that, that was back in April, Mari, which is sitting down in the audience, my girlfriend, she also became part of the team by then, and he added a lot of, the social aspect of what we did, seeing their stories, analyzing, what patterns are we seeing on the people that we are giving these prosthetics, and the follow-ups that we can do with them on creating a community and empowering not just the users, but also the families of these users. Some of our more mature users, that's another design of the Kuaus. Let's see, that's some of the collaborations we've done so far, all over Latin America, some chapters in India, others in Europe. Let's see, and that's a map of Honduras and some of the places that we've delivered prosthetics so far, and also where we have potential users, right? So we are trying to map exactly where are our users, not just for the sake of bragging about all the people that we have given devices, but also for the purpose of identifying exactly where new potential users can go and see by themselves, users that have already placed a hand and see, hey, if this works for this guy, it might work for me as well. Let me contact Guala and see if they can make a custom one for me, right? So for the sake of them not just looking at it on the computer, right, through a picture or like word to word, but actually be able to touch it and feel it. So let's see. So I want to briefly talk about sustainability on what we do. As I was saying, we've been doing this now, I think, for 4 years. And we still find ourselves right now on looking on how to keep doing what we do in a way that we can involve volunteers full-time. Because we found that there's a lot of venues and opportunities to be able to sustain what we do, but we have to keep at least one person to be full-time on what we're doing, to be able to apply for funds, to be able to manage the resources that we have already, and more importantly, not just for looking for more funds, but actually be able to manage what we already have. For example, the users, right? To be able to keep up with them, to be able to track all the devices that they have, the ones that they need, get their feedback and take it for like the best purposes that we can give them. So for improving devices, for just social feedback of new programs and how can we benefit them. So for this, we have 2 models right now that we want to implement, and we are being backed up by some of the institutions in Honduras and also in Latin America. And one of them is through CAST. So right now, CAST is looking for Guala as a model to sustain the free devices that we're giving to kids and to people that are in need in Honduras. So through the CAS, what we want to provide is a service for people that have more resources to be able not just to get the CAS, but to personalize it. So right now, in other words, what we want to look, it's a way to sustain what we do through outsourcing this service to hospitals and also just to independent people which might have the resources to buy one of them, right? So I think it's a pretty simple process. We use the same tools that we already are using with Guala, right? So the machines, the scanners and everything, and we're just giving them a little bit more of a commercial process, but for sustainability reasons, right? So we scan, we personalize, and we print. So let's see another one that I can show you. So yeah, I think you taught me to be brief, so I'm trying. But in other words, what we find out is that we want to keep the core values of what we started, but we also want to get the best out of the resources that what we have mounted to the development of the prosthetics is giving us, right? Which is the machines, the infrastructure, the personnel, the volunteers, right? And make sure that by adding this solution, we're not losing our focus on what we do with the prosthetics, but rather help both focuses align us to keep doing what we do, right? So I just want to mention as well that part of why in Guala we're this collection of, trying out and modifying the existing devices that the community have is that our focus is not just modifying more devices, right? It's headed a little bit more toward the social part. So for that, Guala also relies a lot on the programs that we do for people. So we really try to focus on not just giving out the devices, but also on how do we incorporate social programs that attack real heavy social issues right now in our country. For example, immigration, right? Right now, like last year, we developed a program in which we worked with people that were trying to, that try to immigrate to the U.S. And by doing that, they fell off a train in Mexico and they lost a limb, right? For example. So believe it or not, there's a huge community of these type of persons, right? Not just with upper limb amputations, but any sort of them, right? So we try to get part of these people, and we made a program with them in which they learn how to make their own devices, but we also, through that program, incorporated them back to the working society, because we empower them psychologically, but also we gave them tools like capital funds, seed funds, sorry, to be able to start their own entrepreneurships, right? So that's one of them. Then we're working with that type of programs in which we incorporate the kids to play music, etc., right? So that's like as brief as I can to explain Guala. I just believe that it was a good opportunity to share with you guys that here we are. We're really open to work with the community. Right now, one of our main focuses is on, not main, but one of our big focuses is to help the e-NABLE community on the whole idea of the prosthetics that are made on men and in batches. For example, the prosthetics that come out of the e-NABLE on the handathons, for example, right? What to do with those prosthetics, and not just push it to a way that we have to fit them all on people, but rather how can we get how can we give them the best use possible? Maybe not just for giving them out to a specific user, but also for using them for educational purposes, for example, in communities that don't have access to a 3D printer, right? And the same thing, instead of them just looking at it at a computer, be able to touch it, feel it, and also be able to place those devices in many different communities to be able to be better devices for people that might want a customized one to see it, see the motion, see how it works, see how it feels, and then contact a chapter in that country to be able to get a personalized one, right? coming out from the concept of not having just batch devices sent down there and just give them out as we want, but rather just, hey, here's what it can do, but then here is how we can do it for you, right? Once connected to a chapter in that country, right? So I think that's kind of it, right? And I don't know, do you have any brief questions? Yes, Kat?
Are you guys mostly involved on the university side of things? Sorry if I missed some of that. I was just curious because I see a lot of the names have institutions tied to them.
No, but we're still like way young, so we're still associated with a lot of our universities. Sadly, we don't get any funding from our universities at all, but our universities takes a lot of pride of those kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know, this presentation was for a funding that we're actually trying to get from the Inter-American Bank of Development, so that's why it has this like educational background to it, right? But it also shows that we have a lot of different backgrounds, right? That we try to get a little bit of all of them. Yes?
Do you have contact? Your name, your email, or something like that?
Yeah, I can give them to you, right? Yeah. Any other questions? No? Right,
I will just comment
Yes.
that it's 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
It's an amazing body of work, both in terms of the number of people reached and in terms of the number of really interesting programs.
Right.
You put me in touch with Elena.
Right.
I, in fact, had a coaching session with Elena a couple of days ago, and I advised her, as I just want to mention to everyone, that unlike many groups applying for funding or trying to get support, where you say, we're really young and promising, we've got all these great ideas and we're starting a new business, many e-NABLE chapters have got major bodies of achievement after them. e-NABLE Thailand, for example, has produced a really nice brochure that summarizes their work. I beg your pardon. Not to be confused with e-NABLE Thailand, but has not put together a summary of their actual achievements. I think that if you guys put together a report with a summary of all the things you did, all the programs you're doing, and then say, these are all real achievements, here's how we are falling short.
Great.
Look at the people we've got, look at what we've done. If you want to continue boasting about our work, it's time to step up to the plate. And that strategy of documenting what your chapter has done, and then saying, if you want this to continue,
Right.
may be a good strategy towards reaching out to donors who are not just interested in funding something with promise, but interested in sustaining something worth
Right.
sustaining.
Exactly.
And on that note, I wish to say the next event is Skip and my
Yes. So just to close,
Ripper Hand
John,
workshop.
just 2 minutes. So just to add a little bit on what John was saying, you know, Elena, which is actually right now the CEO of Guala, I stepped down from that position like a year ago. We found ourselves like a little bit less than a month ago, like frustrated because we couldn't, like, hey, how are we gonna do this? How can we get more funding? How can we keep doing this? And I say, wait, just wait a moment. Instead of like just focusing on how we get more funding to do what we do, let's just sit down for a bit and see all we've done so far, right? That way it's easier to like quantify, hey, we've done this much work with these people, we've done this much projects, etc., and then I think it puts you in a better position to then go out and say, hey, we're not just doing this because, as John was saying, because we're cool, but because here are all the numbers, here are all the prospective projects that we're going to be working in, and here's all the people that we're wanting to help. And I think I should have done this at the beginning, but again, my name is Melvin, and right now I work with John and Skip at Rochester. I am finishing my undergrad in RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, but I still collaborate from here with Guala, but also with many other chapters around the world. So it's a great privilege to be part of this community and to meet you all here. I was mentioning a little bit earlier that I feel like all the Avengers are reunited here in this e-NABLEcon, like Maria, Skip, John, Jen, all the people who are the founders of this stuff, Christian. So it does feel pretty cool, and yeah, and Jeremy as well. So it's pretty cool to see that people that, for me, about 4 years ago, were those guys that I saw just on Facebook doing all this cool stuff, is now the people that I can call friends and that are here with me today sharing. So thank you all for being part of this community as well. and hope that we can connect and also work together at some point. So, thank you.